There are several ways to style your WPF application. You can create, for example, your own custom styles. But this approach is a lot of work, because for every control that you use in your application, you need to create a style so that you have a unique look and feel across your whole application. And quite often you also define a completely new visual appearance of your control by setting the template property of the control in a style. So you are creating a new control template. And as you will use many controls like text boxes, combo boxes, data grids, buttons, menu items, tab items, list views, and so on, you will have a lot of work. So you have to think about if you want to do the whole thing on your own. Instead of creating your own custom styles, you can also use a third-party control vendor in your application that has theming support. Most third-party control vendors have text boxes, combo boxes, data grids, and all the stuff you need in a typical application. They provide theming support out of the box so that you get a good-looking application. But in the Friend Organizer application, we don't use a third-party control vendor. Except of the date time picker, we only use standard WPF controls. But luckily, there is also another approach. You can use a UI toolkit for styling like the MAAPS Metro library. The MAAPS Metro library is used to give your WPF application a modern look. It comes with a bunch of styles for all the standard controls, including theming. So you don't have to create your own custom styles. In this module, you will learn how to use the MAAPS Metro library to style the Friend Organizer application in the way like you have seen it in the previous clip. Now let's start and let's add this library to the Friend Organizer application. In this demonstration, you will learn how you can add the MAAPS Metro UI toolkit to the Friend Organizer application. The MAAPS Metro library is available as a NuGet package, so we will install the NuGet package and then you learn how to use the Metro window that comes with MAAPS Metro. Beside the MAAPS Metro window, we also need to add the MAAPS Metro styles so that we get the modern look in the Friend Organizer application. Now let's switch to Visual Studio. Here I've opened the Friend Organizer solution. Now I right-click on References of the Friend Organizer UI project and I select Manage NuGet Packages. Oh, as you can see, we have 3 updates here. So I click on Updates and you can see there are new versions for AutoFag, for the extended WPF toolkit and also for Prism Core. I have checked already that all these new versions are working with our application. So I select all the packages and I click on Update. I say OK, yes, I want to install the new versions. Now all the new versions have been installed. Now let's go to Browse and let's search for MAAPS. Here you can see the MAAPS Metro NuGet package. I install the latest stable version. Now the documentation comes up. I unpin here my output window and you can see the website maaps.com guides quickstart HTML. So you can browse to this website to read it. It's opened automatically as soon as you have installed the MAAPS Metro NuGet package. When I scroll down a bit, you can see that we need to use a Metro window control. So when I scroll down, you can see what we need to do. We need to add this XML namespace for the MAAPS Metro controls namespace out of the MAAPS Metro assembly. So I copy it from here and I go to the main window and I add the XML namespace to this main window. Now I have this controls alias that maps to the MAAPS Metro controls CLR namespace. I change the window here by using this controls namespace that contains the MAAPS Metro window. Visual Studio 2017 is so clever and it also changed the closing tag to controls Metro window. I also go to the code behind file and I change here the base class to Metro window. To use this class, I need to add a using for MAAPS Metro controls. Specifying the base class here of this main window is not necessary at all, because it is already specified in another partial main window class that is generated from the SAML file. But as I like to be explicit, I specify here this Metro window base class. But if you want, you can try to omit it here and you will see the code still works. Now let's run the application and let's see what it looks like. Ooh, it looks really crazy. We can't see anything. But I still can click on the friends and they come up. It looks a bit odd because we haven't included the MAAPS Metro default styles. So let's go back to the documentation. When I scroll down in the documentation, you can see here using built-in styles. Here is described what you need to add to the application resources in the app.saml file so that you get the styles of MAAPS Metro for the standard controls. You need to add the resource dictionaries that are here. So I just copy these resource dictionaries and I go to my app.saml file. Here I have defined already some resources, so I need to wrap the existing resources into a resource dictionary. I scroll to the bottom and I add the closing tag here. Now I have all the existing resources in this resource dictionary. To use multiple resource dictionaries for the application resources, I need to define a single resource dictionary that merges the multiple resource dictionaries together. So let's do this. I create here a resource dictionary around this resource dictionary, and on the outer resource dictionary I set the merged dictionaries property. Inside of this merged dictionaries property I can define multiple resource dictionaries, as many as I want, and they are merged together into this single outer resource dictionary. So now I can just paste the MAAPS resource dictionaries here. Now let's run the application and let's see what the application looks like. Wow, now we have a light friend organizer application, and you can see the design is a bit different. We have a blue color for the group boxes here. We have a special design for our data grid, the buttons have round corners, and so on and so on. So it changed a lot, and now we are using the MAAPS Metro styles. But I want to have a dark user interface. So let's stop the application again, and here you can see the comment extend and app theme setting. When I scroll to the right you can see that we are using the theme Base Light. Now I just changed this to Base Dark. You can read this also in the documentation of MAAPS Metro. Now let's run the application again, and now you can see we have a dark user interface. When I open up a friend, you can see now everything is dark. I like this. But as you can see, we need to fix some things. The navigation labels are a bit too small, the tab headers look a bit ugly, the favorite language combo box has a too small font size, and so on and so on. Let's fix these things now, and let's start with styling the navigation and the tab headers. In this demonstration you will learn how to style the navigation and how to style the tab headers of the Friend Organizer application. Let's switch to Visual Studio. In Visual Studio 2017 we have Edit and Continue for SAML, so we can run the application and we can do the changes while the application is running. I move the application to the left side of my screen and Visual Studio to the right side. Now as you can see, the items in the navigation have a too small font size. When I open up some friends, you can also see that the buttons in the tab headers don't look so good. In addition, I want to set a little background for the tab headers. So now let's see how we can do this, and let's start with the navigation. I open up this little black bar here and I click on Enable Selection. Now I can select elements in my user interface. So I just select an item here in the navigation and then I click here on Go to Live Visual Tree. This opens up the Live Visual Tree Explorer in Visual Studio, and you can see the text block on which I clicked in the user interface is selected here. The text block is part of a content presenter which is part of a grid, and that grid is part of a button that represents the item in the navigation. On the button I have this little icon that says Defined in View Navigation View SAML. When I click on it, Visual Studio will jump directly to the source code with this button. Instead of clicking this item, I can also right-click on this element and I can select View Source from the context menu. Now I'm here in the navigation view and you can see the button is selected. So on this button, I set the font size property and I choose a value of 16. This looks good to me. But in addition to the font size, I want to set a little margin for these lists in the navigation. So I scroll down, and here you can see that we have an items control for friends and an items control for meetings. On the items control for friends, I set a margin of 10. Yes, this margin looks good to me. Let's do the same on the items control for meetings. Now I'm fine with the navigation. Let's continue with the tab headers. So I select a tab header here and I click again Go to Live Visual Tree. Now you can see a text block is selected and that text block is part of a tab item which is part of the tab control here. This time I don't use the context menu, this time I just click on this icon Defined in Main Window SAML. Now you see it did exactly the same as the context menu View Source. We are here on the tab control in the main Windows SAML file. We have defined what the tab header looks like with this data template that we have assigned to the item template property of the tab control. Now I want to give this tab header a little background. So I set another property on the tab control that is called item container style. I assign a new style to this property with a target type tab item. And this style is based on the default style for tab items, which is defined by MARAPS Metro in the application resources. If we don't set the based on property like specified here, we don't get the default style from MARAPS Metro. Now inside of this style for the tab item we can define some setters. And I have already prepared some setters, so I just paste them here. As you can see, I set the background property to a value that contains 6 times 3. This is a dark gray. If I change this for example to 6 times F, you can see that the tab headers have now a white background. I change it back to just the dark gray that I have defined. Then I have defined a border thickness of 2 and a border brush that is transparent. So the border is using the background that is behind the tab items. I could also set this to something else, for example white. Let me uncheck the Enable Selection option here. And now you can see that the tab headers have a white border around them. I press Ctrl Z to change it again to transparent. So now I'm happy with the background of the tab headers. Now let's change the button. On that button I want to get rid of the border around it and of this whole button chrome. It should just be an X. The button itself is defined in the data template that we have assigned to the item template property of the tab control. To get rid of the button chrome, I can use MARAPS chromeless button style. So here I set the style property of this button and I use the static resource markup extension and I reference the chromeless button style that comes with MARAPS Metro. Now you can see the application has an unexpected error. The resource with this empty string is not found. This happened when I was typing in static resource chromeless button style. I click OK, OK again, and now you see the button changed and we just have this little X. And it even gets white when I hover over it. Now let's also set the margin a bit different. A margin of 2 on the left, 0 at the top, 2 on the right and 2 at the bottom. Now the X moved a bit up. In addition, I changed the X to an uppercase X. Yeah, the button looks now quite good to me. I like it. So now I can use this X to close the tab items. Now we are done with styling the navigation and the tab headers in the Friend Organizer application. Let's continue with fixing the font sizes of the buttons and of the favorite language combo box.